good morning, good afternoon, everyone. This is Vic. Welcome to Vic's Basement Zoomcast, brought to you by South Jersey Beer Scene. Find us on Instagram, on Facebook, or wherever great Zoomcasts are found. We also do have a YouTube channel, so please make sure you check us out and subscribe to us on that channel. With me today, and we have two people in the same picture. We're going to go first to my illustrious co-host, Mr. Richard James, the man of many names, Revic. Richard, how are you today?
Hello.
Richard, why don't you introduce the handsome young man that's right next to you?
This is my friend known as Chef Todd. Genius among geniuses, fantastic cook, but also a fantastic home brewer.
Very good. We'll look forward to talking about that during the show today. And with us also is the world famous Mr. Ryan Egan from the world famous Tonewood Brewing in Oakland, New Jersey. Ryan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for the invitation. I'm excited.
Oh, quite all right.
Also a great home brewer.
Also a great, okay, good. We're going to talk a lot about that today. Ryan, your head's a little off camera.
Oh, is this going to be, trying to figure this out.
That's good. That's good right there. That's we can see your whole handsome face here. So we are going to have a great show for you today. We're going to talk about home brewing. We're going to talk about Tonewood and what's going on there. Tonewood is recognized as, throughout South Jersey, a tremendous, tremendous reputation as one of the top breweries that we have. I've never had a bad beer from them, really some fantastic ones. Richard has supplied me with several of them. Thank you, my friend Richard.
Anytime.
Appreciate that. I think the last one that you got me, I think, was Improv.
Oh.
That was a really nice beer, very nice beer. And of course, there's the world famous Fuego beer.
Yeah.
That everyone
number
wants
one.
out of Tonewood.
That was our number one.
We have a great show, and let's get started. First off, we normally start off with some news. By the way, I hope all of you in the Zoomcast like my brand new camera that I have here. You can see the wide screen shot. It's like, in the old days, we used to call it Panavision.
Huh.
And a long time ago, most of you probably watching this don't even know that. I'm sure I'll get some ribbing from my partners at South Jersey Beer Scene about how old I am. But got a brand new camera, so you're actually going to be able to see me without it pixelating or going bad. So that's your punishment for actually tuning in. But let's talk about some news first of all. Outdoor breweries, our local breweries, many of them have been allowed to have outside spots. And one thing I talked to when I was on the show last week with John and Tom, one thing I talked to, it seemed like the state has been very lenient and very accommodating to the breweries as far as setting up an outside location, which is especially good for them since the news came through today, and we're actually talking to you on June 29th. A news came through today that the indoor dining that was only planned at 25% capacity, actually is not going to happen on July 2nd as planned. So a lot of the breweries have taken advantage of the outdoor. And like I said, the municipalities in the state, in my mind at least, has been very accommodating, allowing the breweries to set up outside, to set up some kind of outside venue. In some cases, it's actually helped them follow through on plans that they had from the opening. Richard, you look very quizzical. Comments on that at all?
I'm just fascinated that anybody would call Governor Murphy accommodating, but that was fascinating.
Did I say Governor Murphy accommodating?
Oh.
I said the government. I didn't say anything about anyone in particular. It just seems to me that that they are allowing more of the breweries to open outdoor spots, in parking lots, behind the buildings, et cetera, and so forth. So I'm glad that that's being allowed. As I said, especially since the indoor the indoor locations are going to be a no-go as that for right now. So don't you think? What do you think, Richie? We talk a lot. Don't you think that they are really, they could have very easily said, no, you're not allowed any outdoor.
Here's the two-sided thing to this.
Okay.
While I understand why he probably made the decision to not allow indoor dining because he looked at what's going on in other states. When he decided to allow indoor dining at 25%, those states weren't much better. So there hasn't been a dramatic turn. It sort of feels like, for as accommodating as this Jersey government's kind of been, there's been a lot of, hey, you can do this, wait, don't do it. Now go ahead and do it. Maybe not. Think how many restaurants, and I think you would speak as a chef, had now ordered food, ordered beverages, got things ready to go for a big launch for a July 2nd weekend, July 4th weekend, and now, oh yeah, you can't use any of that.
True.
And setting up the inside and getting everything up to speed with the new, new standards for safety.
Sure. And maybe spoilage of food, et cetera, and so. Okay, well then maybe I'll back off of what I said as far as accommodating.
I'm glad he's doing the outside. I mean, that's great. And I get what he was seeing. I mean, if you look at pictures of just what happened in Jersey this weekend, I saw plenty of people not social distancing like they're doing in other states. But that also means it's because it's municipality, is overseeing it. And some municipalities just aren't stopping it.
Now,
I don't think it's coming down to the municipalities, because I think that oftentimes it's falling to the restaurants and bars and breweries to basically self-police the crowds, which is not what restaurants and breweries and bars are set up to do or be. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, all of them are businesses, and all of them are trying to bring in as much of the customers as they can to have as much profit as possible, to pay the staff and to, for all the upkeep. And it's just really, I think that this whole situation is extremely tough. It's tough to navigate it if you're a business owner. I think that it really falls to us, like citizens and individuals, to be intelligent about how we engage in these places. Because it's almost like, when you're a child, you can only have nice things when you can take care of the nice things, right? And if you can't take care of the nice things, you don't get them. So I just think we all have to do our part to, play by the rules until there is a cure for this thing, or a vaccination for this thing, and we can have a little less risk of contracting it. If you contract it and there's a cure, great. There's a cure down the road. But right now that doesn't exist. So we've got to play by the rules a little bit more scrupulously than we have been.
Oh, agreed. It goes kind of both ways. Government sort of has to figure out a way to get it together and make decisions based on science and rationality and at appropriate times. And we as citizens, clearly, like you said, have to learn to, listen a little, especially to the science. This probably wouldn't have happened in Florida and Texas and Arizona had those people just social distance. You want interesting? Go look at comedian Mark Norman's Return to Stand-Up mini documentary. It's like 10 minutes long about his first 4 times on stage.
That was down in Dallas, Texas, right?
Yep, down in Dallas, Texas. And it was just open. They're doing full meet and greets. He's talking about when he was in restaurants and everywhere he went, no masks whatsoever, no social distancing in places where it was supposed to happen. They were open, but supposed to exercise some personal responsibility. And apparently Texas decided, and Florida and Arizona and 20 other states, nah.
Well, what I will say is my final statement on this subject is I'm glad that many of our breweries have found ways to take advantage of the outside serving and really found a way to continue operating, connecting with their clients. Now, Ryan, with you with Tonewood, what have you all done differently since COVID-19? What have you had to do differently?
I mean, chronologically, when COVID hit, it was right around the week of St. Patrick's Day. So we had a lot of beer going out in the world that week in draft. And obviously when all the bars and restaurants closed, that package format it's not necessary. No one was serving draft beer. So We pivoted at that moment to put everything into cans. And we were doing that up until the recent reopening for outdoor dining options a couple of weeks ago. And but as far as at the brewery, we launched an online store so that people could order ahead, pay without any contact, so that all of the payment could be done online, so that we didn't have to touch cash or cards. And then we can't have people inside the brewery, so we have a curbside pickup for online retail sales, which has been working out really well for us. We flirted with the idea of delivery, but ultimately decided not to go down that road. I know a lot of breweries that did go down that road, and it's worked out tremendously for them. But with the number of clients that we had in total, half were off premise, so think your liquor stores, and the other half were on premise, so the bars and the restaurants, and we were able to weather it pretty well because it seems like people are drinking more now than ever. So all of our beer was found homes at liquor stores throughout the state, which was great. So we've been pretty fortunate in that regard.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. And we'll get back to some more information about Tonewood, but you actually bring up a good point. I have a very serious subject to discuss. Very serious subject. A study came out just recently on what states drink the most overall beer per capita. New Jersey is number 48.
I thought it was 47, but I believe that.
The one I'm looking at says 48 out of 50 states. 47 or 48. Now we're tied for 40. Actually, we're tied for 48 with Connecticut. Okay. At 0.8. What is that? 0.8. What's the stat there? Gallons per capita annually. That is.
Now, is that consumed or is that produced?
That's consumed.
Oh,
this is drinking beer.
You got nothing but up for us.
We have to be up. The state that drink the most beer in America, we are 48. That's pitiful, New Jersey.
Per capita.
That is pitiful. We definitely have a crisis here.
Who's at the top of that list? What state drinks the most?
Let's put it this way. What do you think? Who do you think is at the top of that list?
Just based on production by state, I would think it would be either California or Colorado.
Well, we're talking about just drinking, just people drinking it. Most per capita. Remember, it's per capita.
I would say it has to be somewhere south. Okay. Tennessee?
Nope.
Georgia?
No, it's not somewhere south.
Huh.
Number one is New Hampshire.
Oh.
New Hampshire's number one, actually more than double Jersey. Number two is Montana. Number three is Vermont.
You've named 3 states that don't have a major city.
Right.
So far.
4, North Dakota.
Yeah.
Starting to see a pattern.
4. Yeah.
And 5, South Dakota.
Uh-huh.
I also mentioned 5 states that are freezing most of the time.
Right.
So
I think you've also named 5 states that have the highest suicide rate, as well. No, as I'm not trying to be funny, as well as I think they also have the highest pregnancy rates.
Okay.
Because
what if they coincide at the same time?
Well, here's the thing: when you don't have a major metropolis, and it's smaller cities or small towns, there are a couple of tried and true forms of recreation.
Right. Right.
Makes sense.
And procreating and drinking are 2 of them.
Wait, are you saying Bozeman, Montana is not a highlight of America?
It is a beautiful city.
It is supposed to be awesome, actually, yeah.
Well, that's a college town.
Yeah.
My nephew works for Goruk and I know he was there. They actually have a factory, I guess, around there. So he actually lived in Bozeman for a while. Is that where that's Montana?
Yeah.
Where is
Yeah.
it? But the college is right there. Is that where University of Montana is?
University of Montana, I thought was in Missoula.
Oh, I don't know. But I know that's near College Town. So the top 5 states.
Montana State.
Montana State is there. Okay, I knew it was some kind of
in
college
Bozeman.
there. Okay, but yeah, that's the states that drink the most beer by capita. We're number 48 in New Jersey. You know, what do you think? Do you think that?
Well, we have
do you
more
think
things
that
to
the
do than just
quarantine has
drink.
affected that?
I do think that. Well, no, I don't know that it has, because I think that universally people are drinking more across the country.
Mm.
So if everyone goes up in the same kind of, the rankings won't change that much, right?
Yeah.
Presumably.
Very, very interesting to hear. Let's see some highly populated states.
Who's
here.
beneath us, Vic?
Who's beneath us?
Yeah.
Well, Connecticut we're tied with. Maryland is beneath us.
They're all crabbing. That's why. Well, I mean, I guess you can drink when you crab, right?
And Utah.
Correct.
And, well, that makes sense. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
It's the epicenter for our Mormon friends in the country, and so we know that most Mormons, if they're abiding by the faith, do not drink.
Yeah, and New York is just below us, actually. But what's most populated state? Is that California or is it Texas?
I don't know.
I think it's California.
I think it's California, but
California is like middle of the road. But some interesting statistics that again, who is it? This is from VinePair. I will give them credit for giving us these statistics here. Now, overall,
California has 11 million more people than Texas.
Yeah. California does?
Yeah, it has 39 million people.
There you go. So overall consumption, of course, the states with more people are going to drink more. Like California is number 1. California, Texas, Florida, New York, and Pennsylvania are the top 5. And those are 5 of the most populated states. Even on that stat, we're number 14 there. You know, even though we're, I guess, in the top tier of populations as far as states. So
we're dense.
Yeah. Just some huh?
We're packed in New Jersey.
You're more dense?
No,
Are you insulting me? Did you say I'm more dense, Richard?
I did. I said people from Central Jersey are dense because they believe in Central Jersey.
I'm not from Central Jersey.
Oh, I know. That's just a thing we've talked about a few thousand times on this show.
I know we have.
The illusion of Central Jersey.
Yeah, we have talked about that.
I totally believe it's real.
Yeah.
See? He's one of those.
It's the line that goes in between North Jersey and South Jersey.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, so if you're beneath 195, that goes basically from Trenton all the way over to Belmar, you're in South Jersey. And if you're north of 195, you're in North Jersey. But there is there's a belt that goes basically from Princeton down to Bordentown. That is Central Jersey, because there is it has to do with sports teams. You can find people down here who are rooting for the Giants. You can find people up there rooting for the Eagles. It has to do with the allegiance to what sports team. And you'll never convince me that there's no Central Jersey if you have people like that in this world.
Well, what's their sports team? Is it some weird minor league thing? Because if they're not South, they're not doing Eagles. If they're not North, they're not doing Giants. If they're in the Central, what are they like? Oh, we only like AAA ball?
No, there are people that live in Central who will some root for North and some root for the Eagles and some root for the Giants, but they live amongst each other. There's no hard, definitive cutoff.
So your hippie band that you're calling Central Jersey, it's just weirdos and dum-dums that can't make a decision.
No, they've
there's that word
amongst each other.
Dum-dums.
Love it.
Have you introduced the word TikTok to the show, Richard?
I don't know on this one.
No, I don't even know what TikTok is.
Well, Governor Murphy would count as a TikTok right now. He's clearly one.
What does that mean? I don't explain to me.
TikTok is sort of like Snapchat, which I know, again, I'm probably making your head explode with all these social media sites, but it's just a little social media site where you make these little 1-minute videos, and it started off to be like a dancing thing with pop tunes, but it's also turned into just a whole subculture of weirdos that you could affect
in Richard's view. Yeah.
Yeah. And people who are like them are all TikTok.
When he disagrees with somebody vehemently, he will call them a TikTok.
100%.
Is that the same as a dum-dum?
Basically, no. Yes.
Okay. Worse.
It's worse. TikTok is worse than
shade down. A couple shades down there. You know, you're dum-dum, you're all right, you know. Yeah. TikTok, ugh.
Thank you for veering us off of our conversation. That's good.
About Central Jersey, yeah.
About Central Jersey. So that's good. Now let's talk. Let's move down from Central Jersey to what I guess we would consider South Jersey, and we want to talk a little bit about Tonewood. Ryan? Can you give us a brief, unadulterated history of Tonewood?
Sure, I'll try.
I was going to say no, but go ahead.
Brief is the problem, I suppose.
You got it.
Yeah, it was two brothers opened Tonewood, Eli and Taylor Fascini. They're from originally Atco, New Jersey. Eli lived out in Telluride, Colorado, where he trained to brew with Telluride Brewing Company, and moved back home to follow his dream of opening his own place. Found the spot in Oakland, New Jersey in 2015, broke ground for it, and we opened June 4th of 2016. So we celebrated our 4th anniversary last month, or earlier this month, excuse me. It's not July yet.
By the time people see this, it will be.
We'll have July,
yeah. So it was last month, everyone.
Yeah.
Unless
congratulations.
2 years from now. Yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, so we started with it's a 15-barrel brew house. We started with 3 30-barrel fermenters, and we have steadily grown into the space that we inhabit in Oakland. I'd have to think about it off the top. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I want to say we're up to 8 fermenters and 3 bright tanks. So production keeps going on week after week, and our number 1 selling beer is Fuego, which is a hazy IPA, 6.2% alcohol by volume. And yeah, I mean that's a brief history. Last year we did purchase a second facility that we will hopefully begin construction on shortly, but COVID has put a little bit of a speed bump in our process. So we're excited for the next couple of years.
Great. Now we talked a little bit about how COVID has affected Europe, but has it affected the recipes of the beers that you plan to brew during that period of time?
Has
it affected your schedule, in other words?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question. So as I mentioned earlier, when we opened because we couldn't have people in the brewery, but one way we could continue to generate sales is to have these online orders and pickups. And what we were able to do during the COVID period was to use our smaller fermenters, our 15-barrel fermenters, and sometimes our 30-barrel fermenters to do a quick one-off beer, like a new style. So we actually released a couple of brand new beers during COVID that were only available for pick up at the brewery. There wasn't enough of it to see distribution. So we sold them all through our tasting room with our online store. And so yeah, like
first hit the new headphones.
Knocked my earbuds out there.
Richard, don't harass our guests.
He's fine. We had a beer called Switch Up, which did really, really well for us. As far as in the online community, a lot of people really dug that beer. We had a new beer called Stash that just came out a couple of weeks ago. Even last week we've got a series of beers that we call the monotone series. So each time we make it, it's the same grist, but we change the hop. So it's a single hop IPA. And we released an Amarillo version of that beer, which we had never done before. So we've continued to try to put new beers into the market, but most of those beers come through our tasting room. And that's always been our model. Before COVID, we would put those beer just in kegs. We wouldn't can them. And then we would take feedback from our tasting room customers to see if they were something that people enjoyed. And if we got really positive feedback, then we kind of work them into the schedule a little bit more frequently, and then try to, make them things that become a little bit more reliable, as far as being able to get it. And that's kind of always how we've always taken feedback from our customers to figure out, what should we be brewing more of, or should we
poolside
try the next thing? There's only so many fermenters. So
Good beer.
I'm sorry, what was that, Todd?
more poolside.
Yeah,
Lager.
getting canned tomorrow.
Nice, perfect. I've been looking.
We're gonna have it for 4th of July. So.
Excellent, you the man.
We're crushing our freshies now.
Oh, great! That's when poolside's not available in the summer. That's my beer.
Mine too.
I think
so we did a beer called Currents. I don't know if you were able to get that one or not, but that came through the tasting room. And so one thing that we're really proud with Freshies, the wheat in that beer, the white wheat, comes from Rabbit Hill Farms in Shiloh, New Jersey. And
Nice.
Because we brew so much of Freshies, it's our number 2 selling beer. We brew it year round, and it's something that's part of the schedule just about every week. We're their number 1 customer for white wheat in the state, which is awesome, because that's something that we're really proud of, but whenever you work with a supply chain, Rabbit Hill's a smaller company, and their products are, rightfully so, they're quality products, but they're more expensive than the grain that we get kind of from these larger companies that have the scale to make it at a cheaper rate, at a lower rate. So we're not always able to use all of their grains, but Currents was a beer that we did use all of their grain, and we made a pale ale that I preferred, actually. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I preferred it to Freshies. So it was only out for a brief period of time, and when it sold out, but I'm pretty sure that we will brew that again, and I'm really excited about that. So and when we do, we'll use all of the grains that come from all the grains in the grist come from Rabbit Hill. So hello to Hillary at Rabbit Hill.
Go ahead, Richard.
I think an important experience that we should probably say for people who don't know, Ryan is one of my co-hosts on Fear of a Craft Beer Planet. So, and Tonewood has been a long sponsor of the show. And I think from a not brewery person's perspective, somebody who just really loves Tonewood, the thing you don't get right now that I can't wait till we can open back up and get some more normalcy is how cool the brewery is. Like, you notice it's Tonewood, and it very much has now I know from selling music retail, like being in the acoustic room at a music store. It's like nice woods, and it really looks and feels like a cool place to be. And then if you're not Freshies, but a lot of them are obviously because of Tonewood with the music thing. There's tons of music names throughout their beer line, which I think is as a musician love.
Now, is that where
I'm a fish fan? Huh?
Ryan? Is that where the Tonewood name came from?
Yeah, we're gonna get interrupted by my son. He's screaming right now, but
that's okay. Tell him to come on camera.
Yeah. So both Eli and Taylor are huge music fans. When they're not, brewing or doing things at the brewery, they're often seeking out live concerts. Jam bands are one of their favorites. Bluegrass is one of their favorite styles, and but Taylor's an avid guitar player. So the Tonewoods are the woods that are used for their tonal qualities in instrument making, and so
plays the Telecaster.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's my savant talent.
Yeah. It's a beautiful guitar, and he's a talented guitar player. So
yeah. He built himself as what you were about to say is, oh yeah, I'm just kind of an average story guitar player. And then I heard that the Bannon Brewers, not Bannon Brewers, whatever the new one was called, and he was just ripping it. And I'm like, yeah, average, okay.
Yeah. So Richard's referring that there's an event happens at World Cafe Live in Philadelphia, and it used to be called Bandit Brewers, and I can't remember how it got rebranded, what name they came up with. I'm blanking on that, but we were invited to participate, and each brewery had to, each brewery's band had to have its own name. So we're the Cellar Dwellers, which I think is a great name, and it's also one of the names of our beers. So
nice. So what does it sound like in the brewery when it's a brew day, when it's all closed up, or whatever?
It depends on who's on the brew deck. Yeah. It can range. I mean, they're also really big fans of hip hop and rap. So we'll have that going off. I think that's, Tribe Called Quest is almost it's almost always on when one person brews. There can be the infamous String Dusters. There can be I'm trying to think of some of the bands that come in all the time. Lettuce is a big band that gets played a lot.
Nice.
My counterpart in sales, if it was up to him, it would be on Freeze McGee all the time. Fish is a huge influence. So it's all over the it's all over the place. I mean, it really depends on who's on the brew deck, because that usually is the person who's in earliest in the morning, and they get control of the tunes that get played. But we've got a really nice sound system in the brewery that's been upgraded twice, and it's not getting used the same way anymore, but it's definitely getting used for the guys on the production team. So yeah.
Now, Ryan, if you could tell me now, I know you talked about working with Rabbit Hill, and it's great that you're supporting the local business life. Tell me about how Oakland itself has changed since Tonewood opened up there.
I mean, this is all anecdotal and not based on any insider knowledge, but we have had businesses like, there was 2 doors down or 3 doors down from us is a pizza place that I heard a rumor, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard a rumor that in our first year of operation, their sales increased by 1,000%. And I'm saying that laughingly, but I'm pretty sure that was it didn't just double it, it was exponential.
They have some good pizza there too. The pizza and their cheesesteaks are really good there.
And it's funny. So there were 2 brothers that owned that business, and they were approached by another, restaurateur, pizza shop owner, who ended up buying the business from the brothers. So they ended up, selling the business, and so there's a second business there because they just thought that it was a good investment to be on the same block with us, which is pretty great. There's a healthy food option called the Square Meal, who are really good friends of ours, and Dan and Jackie. And so there's food options. The Manor Bar, which when we opened, was in between ownership change. So they were actually, the Manor, which is an institution in Oakland, was closed for about 9 months as the deal kind of went forward, and they did some remodeling and some renovations. So when they opened, they were new business owners at the same time, because we actually pre-existed them at that point. And that's been a great, I wouldn't call them necessarily business partner, but it's a nice business that's right down the street. They carry a bunch of our beers. We close at 10 o'clock at night, and they are open until 2. So if some of our patrons aren't ready to go home yet, there's still an option for them to go across the street, have a couple more beers, and get some food. So we always love sending people over there when we were operating a tasting room. But yeah, I mean, the town has been great. I think that there has been growth. I don't know if it's necessarily directly a correlation of us being there or not, but I'd like to think that there's at least an attraction to having a business in town because of our being there. So yeah, it's been, and the township is super supportive. And we've always had really great relationships with the town itself. I mean, we were talking about, earlier with local municipalities being really supportive of breweries during COVID, but we've always been supported by the township of Oakland, their police department, their fire department, the general governance of the township has been extremely embracing of us and supportive of us from the beginning. So
plus the Oakland jail, the little police jail there is very nice.
Richard spent a night.
Quite possible.
In a youthful state.
In the 90s.
Oh my gosh, Richard. Okay, so
if you want the full details of that, you can check out Beer of a Craft Beer Planet podcast.
I'll have to check that one out there. Well, I found out about his other escapades also, Ryan.
Yeah, they happen.
I didn't know about, so. What's
I feel bad because I'm monopolizing the conversation. I'd love to hear about Chef Todd's baking.
Oh no, we're going to get to him. One last thing about Tonewood I want to ask you.
Yes, sir.
Now Tonewood, we had spoke a little bit beforehand that very quietly, not all over the place, but is considered like when you're talking best breweries in South Jersey, Tonewood is always in the conversation.
Thank you.
What's your favorite beer, and why do you think that is?
Why do I think that it's my favorite beer, or why do I think that we're
what's your
quietly
favorite beer that you brew, and why do you think, you're familiar with a lot of breweries.
I am.
What do you think actually puts you at that level?
That's a great question.
That's what I do. I ask great questions, Ryan. See?
Well, here we are. First, I guess favorite beer, which is it. For a long time, it was Chief, which is a pale ale that is not brewed on a regular production schedule. We brew it semi-regularly, but it's not often out. I think that might be my favorite, although I really did love Currents, which I spoke about just a few moments ago. I'm a pale ale guy. I love IPAs too. Don't get me wrong, and we make great ones. But I think that for me, I like a little bit lower ABV than the IPAs offer, and I like to come back to a beer and not have my palate completely assaulted by hops, which can happen even in the most balanced of IPAs. So I think that those two beers have been my favorites, but we're not too far off from having some really exceptional saisons coming out in the near future. We just added during COVID, we added 4 more tanks. We added another 30-barrel fermenter, and then we added a 30-barrel fooder, which are the large wooden, they're oak barrels, which are great for wood aging, and then we added 2 15-barrel fooders. So it's going to give us some versatility to do a couple of fun projects coming through the brewery that are going to be wood aged. And I know that one of the things we're going to be looking forward to are some wood aged saisons, and I love saisons. I think that it's just a beautiful and subtle style that kind of had its minute back in the 07, 08 year, and then it kind of fizzled. It seemed like it caught on for a moment, and then it kind of went away. And I feel bad because I feel like anyone who's really passionate about saisons is going to continue to bang that drum for a while. But
need a new hashtag at Belgian Styles, classic Belgian Styles.
Classic Belgian Styles, yeah.
Classic Belgian Styles.
We can start that on this show.
This here.
Forgot the Germans. I'm moving to the Belgians.
Yeah. You're drinking a Belgian Dark, which
that's a Belgian Dark Strong, about 10.8% ABV. Was in that barrel in the corner. Where's that barrel? Was in that barrel for about 2 months. That's in the corner of the screen there. Richard, I gave you this one to try.
I drank
and you use Belgian candy sugar, right?
Belgian
UPA
candy sugar in that.
and monastery
Some
yeast, you said?
monastery yeast, some sweet cherries in the secondary. And then after that, went into that barrel, which did hold bourbon and then maple after that. It was the second time I used the barrel, so didn't quite keep as much as the barrel flavor as I might have wanted it to, but it still came out pretty good.
If you went for a little bit more, the tough thing is that it's a diminishing return whenever you use a barrel like that.
Yeah.
So a little bit more contact time might have helped. But that's something I'm going to be. And you had said earlier, you said, I guess for your audience, because I don't know how familiar they are with me, and I don't expect them to be. I don't brew at Tonewood. I'm the sales person, so I'm not the one actually making the beer. But I try to be in the room every once in a while so that I can learn some things, because as Richard said, I do homebrew, so I'm at least familiar with the process, and in theory I understand it. So, but I don't execute it or put it into practice on a professional level. But I am excited to learn more about how the fooders will behave as we turn those tanks, because it's not just it's not a one-time use, it's a several time
right
use. So I don't know if that means more contact time to get the wood characteristics that the flavor profiles that we're looking for, or if it's something because of the size of it can be used quickly or not. I'm excited to learn more about the fooders.
I think if it's a larger, I think it's got to be in for a long time. Like that's only a 5-gallon barrel there, so I couldn't really keep it in there. It wouldn't really had that much more of effect, because there's not a lot of surface area in a 5-gallon barrel like that.
Yeah, I mean you've got the surface area for what's externally hitting it, right? But then there's a lot of beer in that vessel that's not coming into contact with that wood. So the contact time might have, if you had gone longer, you might have gotten a little bit more extraction of that wood flavor. But it is something, because you've used that wood before, you've extracted wood flavors from it.
Right.
So there's a point where you kind of start losing the ability to get a whole lot of flavor out of those small barrels like that.
For sure.
That'd be a point in time where you could use like a stave, like you would use for winemaking, to kind of get more oak flavor or wood flavor in your beer, or would that be overbearing?
They sell those spirals, right? And and the beauty of those spirals is there's a lot more contact area, surface area in a minimal shape. So
and that particular one, I did put some oak chips in it for a bit.
Nice.
I did put some oak chips. Chef Todd, let's talk about your brewing and your chef skills. Richard tells me you're an amazing cook.
Well, thank you. True story.
I see your Body by Bacon shirt.
That's right.
And I know that you make bacon. Everyone loves bacon.
Yes.
Everyone loves bacon. Bacon makes everything better. It makes, if your house stinks, it makes your house smell better.
Everybody knows the smell of bacon.
So tell us about making bacon.
Yeah, so I start with basically the raw pork belly. Get those skinned down. I would say that's probably the most complicated part of the whole process, is actually skinning the pork bellies. You can get it already skinned, but normally it costs me probably another $1 a pound. So doing it on a home level, I'm trying to cut all my corners and watch what I'm spending on it. You can take that pork skin, then turn it into basically chicharrones by boiling that skin, cleaning it, drying it, and then deep frying it. That's a whole process, but it's a fun process to do, and nothing's better than some homemade pork rinds.
Give us a definition. Chicharrones. What is that?
Pork rinds, fried pork skin, basically.
Okay.
So by the process of cooking the skin, getting off all the fat, you just end up with the skin. Then you dry it, dehydrate it, and you have this very hard and brittle piece of skin. Then when you throw it in the deep fryer, it poofs up.
Okay.
So it turns from this hard, flat piece of skin to this beautiful, puffed up, melt in your mouth kind of porky goodness.
That sounds delicious.
They're awesome. Yeah, if you're ever in a Mexican restaurant, you see someone chicharron, make sure you pick it up.
Actually, one of the Richard actually was there with me, Arlington in LBI.
Mhm.
Richard, remember we were there last year? They actually had a pork chop with chicharrones on it.
Wow.
It was strange shape, and it looked like almost like architectural dental work. That's what the end of the pork chop looked like.
Oh, really?
Oh, it was absolutely delicious. It was tremendous.
That's a great place.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, it was. That was a good place. Richard and I were there last year.
Vic, I just opened that account like a couple weeks before COVID, and we're sending beer on Thursday to
the Arlington.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Oh,
yeah.
Awesome! That's great. Oh, that's great. Maybe at some
Sorry,
point.
What are they taking?
I mean, we basically only have Fuego and kegs for the most part. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Maybe when things get back to where we hope they will be again, maybe you guys do a tap takeover there.
Yeah, I've been I really like the owners. I think they're great, and
Paul is terrific. Yeah,
Paul is awesome. Yeah, and so who's their bartender who used to work for Ship Bottom Brewing? I met him. He's a really nice guy too.
Is that James?
He's not part of the ownership. He's one of the bartenders. He's like a young guy. He has children that are similar. We talked for a while. I ended up having lunch there, and his kids are my kids' age. So we had a lot of kind of shared experience.
Yeah, that's a great place. I can't wait till that back open inside to go there. Yeah. Me and my wife will go there at least twice a month or so.
Yeah, well, you're right around the corner. So
yeah, it's only about a 10-15 minute drive for me, so it's really great.
Yeah.
Great place. So now, Chef Todd, what's more fun, baking or making beer?
That's a tough one, man.
I told you, I asked tough questions, don't I, Richard?
I thought I was going to know the answer to this, so I saw a look on his face, and I'm like, he's really confused on this answer.
Well, it kind of goes up and down.
Okay.
Right? It's like both of them are like a love-hate relationship, right? So making bacon, I love it at times. I hated it for a little bit because I tried to turn it into a business, and I took it away from being a hobby. So and then when I stopped that and I turned it back into being a hobby, it was fun again. I have a blast with it. I make little tweaks, and it's it's a fun little project for me to do. And making beer is one of those things where I just I can just get in the garage and kind of get into a different, as a chef, I like to get into a groove, and it's a different kind of groove I can do in a culinary aspect. So in all honesty, I would probably say I'd enjoy making beer better, but it's very close.
Now tell us, do you have any of your beers there with you?
I do. I was getting ready to open one. I also have a Belgian strong that I made with a good buddy of mine, Jay James, that lives down the street.
Nice.
And the interesting thing about that is we're like two different brewing styles. He's a science teacher, and I'm a chef. Okay. So when I brew, I'm kind of that guy. I'll have a recipe, but then I'll just kind of go with the flow.
Right. You're
whimsical.
By the book, and
whimsical.
Exactly.
There you go. So you're more by feel and touch, and he's by science.
Yes.
Okay.
Also by weight. By weight.
Yes.
By weight. Yeah.
So let me pop it out.
Let's open something you got there.
He had it's going so long ago, but you had made that like strawberry sour, like was it a Goes or was it actual kettle sour?
It was that one was a strawberry cream ale that I made, and then half the batch I added some Brett Meises to it. And
nice.
Right, that's what it was. Right.
Then I let that one go for a couple years and just kind of let it do its thing. And, we went from kegs to bottles, and it just, all of them kind of lasted for, I think that when we finished it might have been like 5-6 years old.
Yeah.
And by then it was super funky.
Yeah, it was so funky and awesome. I was like, man.
Oh, nice.
I don't get a lot of homebrew sours, so I just never forgot that. It's just it's most people when their own brew, like, everybody's got an IPA recipe and a porter and a stout recipe. And
I don't have an IPA recipe.
Well, you don't.
I have yet to brew an IPA. Pale ale I've brewed. I have not brewed an IPA.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just made my first hazy a couple months ago, right at the beginning of the quarantine thing. I made a hazy. Turned out fantastic. Probably lasted on tap for 2 weeks.
I would.
It's not a question for all three of them.
What?
What beers do you like to brew in general? Like, what beers are the most fun for you to brew?
Honestly,
or are they fun because it's your taste preference?
I would say the porters. I like brewing the dark beers. You know, this is actually fun too. This is the closest I get to a sour. It's a nice color. Yeah, this is raspberry wheat. A raspberry wheat. We were talking about this earlier, that it's tart, but I don't think it would be considered a sour.
No, it's tart, but it's delicious and super crushable.
Mm. It is only about 4.9%. This, you know, as opposed to the Belgian that I showed you before, which is 10.8.
Yeah.
You know, it is only the. So what do we have there that you all are drinking?
What was that?
What are you drinking?
Oh, I'm sorry. We just got our own little headspace here. It's so good. We forgot we were on camera.
This is last bottle. This one that I made. It's a chocolate Belgian. It's probably about 4 years old.
Very nice.
Yeah. So it's a little. It kind of lost some carbonation, which is fine, but it's really smooth and it's kind of refreshing.
Yeah.
Right. You get
it's oddly crisp. Which is not what I expected from a beer that color. You said chocolate. I'm like, well, it's not going to be refreshing.
Now, what is it? What did you use for the chocolate? Did you actually put chocolate in it, or?
Yes, there was chocolate in it, and to be honest with you, I made it 4 years ago. I really don't remember what we did.
Okay.
It happens with so many of my recipes. If I don't have it written down, I'm not looking at it. I have no idea, because I'll go to the kitchen and just go nuts. And
I'll tell you, your friend would have remembered because he would have written it down because he's scientific, and that's the difference between a whimsical brewer and a scientific one.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
See, now I'll tweak. I'm sort of like, I guess, in the middle between the two, because I do write everything down. You know, Richard, you've seen my book.
Yep.
I write everything down. You know, I also use, Beersmith. I also use that, to help figure out calculations, etc. But I do write everything down. You know, we have in our club, Ocean County Homebrewers, we do have some experimental brewers. My buddy Butch is never afraid to experiment with anything that he had. He gave me a carrot beer the last time we were together. He made like a carrot sorbet and added it, and it was an interesting experiment.
I really enjoyed Double Nickel's. I think Ryan and I talked about this on other shows.
The pickle beer, right?
Yeah.
The pickle goes that they had at Double Nickel.
Yeah.
I thought just because it looked so weird, I'd have to order it. And obviously, I'm a goes and sour nut. So I'm like,
was that recently?
Yeah, it was like right before the COVID thing happened.
It was.
Yeah,
I think
Rob Towie
I think it
from
was in
Jersey Beer
like
Guys and Pearl.
Late January, early February.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like a month before COVID.
It was.
So, Richard, how did you like it?
I loved it. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. It tasted exactly what would happen if you thought you had what you think of as goes with a strong pickle flavor.
Yeah.
It was funky and pickle forward and still tasted like beer.
You know what?
You didn't lose the malt taste of beer.
I've been brewing for a while now. I've never heard a description. I've heard malt forward. I've heard hop forward. I've never heard pickle forward.
Pickle forward. The beer was pickle forward.
And it didn't taste like pickle juice from the jar after the pickles are gone, did it?
No, that's when I would have been disappointed. If it just tasted like pickle juice, I'd have been like, oh, that's what anybody can do that. I mean, It still had a beer taste, and the pickle didn't overtake it. You know? Like here, we're talking about the chocolate, and this is not remotely overtaking this on any level.
Okay.
You know, some of these beers are Jay would call flavor bombs. Our buddy Jay Rose from Fear of Bannon are flavor bombs, and it just wasn't. I mean, maybe a little more pickle forward than flavor forward than some things, but you still knew it was a beer, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
It's funny now that I'm thinking about that pickle beer because I've enjoyed beers that have had cucumber in it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what a pickle is.
Yeah.
It's just a vinegared cucumber, basically, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Which makes sense in a sour, right? You're going to get vinegar flavors that come from acetic acid and the other acids that I malic maybe, I don't know.
Mhm.
But all of
silliness.
but now that I'm thinking about that, if I can conceive of it as a sour pickle beer, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
It's when you a sour cucumber beer. When you say the word pickle, I automatically have that vinegar, like that, when you taste a really vinegared pickle and you take a bite and like all the moisture in your mouth, you have that you
Yeah,
it's got a big pucker factor.
Yeah, the pucker, right?
Yeah.
So
right in.
I wasn't sure how to wrap my mind around that beer until this moment, but good job describing it, Richard, because that brought me around. I'll try
That's
it.
Good.
I'll give it a try.
Richard, see that?
We'll try it too. That sounds
This
awesome.
is the guy that doesn't know beer, right? Does he still say that on the show, Ryan? No, I'm not really a beer guy.
No, not anymore.
Yeah.
I mean,
I still don't understand the process that well.
Well, you know what? Here, Ryan, I'll tell you a
because
story.
every time I've invited you to homebrew, you've not come.
There we go. There we go.
Two people saying the same thing, by the way, right there.
Exactly. I said, Richard, you want to come up? I'm brewing this thing. Oh, I have to wash my hair or something like that.
They're trying to do a homebrew show on the Fear of Craft Beer Planet, and I was like, "Come on over, I'll set up the equipment."
I did. I brewed an awful beer. What did we call that thing? It was terrible.
It was 7-month hiatus last time we talked about that.
It was. What was the beer you used?
Oh, what was the name of that?
We called it the Beast of Burden, didn't we, or something like that?
Beast of Burden, right?
Yep.
That's a good name. That's a good name.
What was it a clone of again?
Of Sam Smith. What was it? A winter ale? It was a beer that I had never tasted. So they were telling me what it might have tasted like, and I was basically constructing a recipe around somebody's 20-year-old memories.
So what did you throw? Cinnamon and crap in it like that?
I did not use cinnamon. I did use raspberry extract.
Okay.
Because it had raspberry. Did I use cinnamon? I might have. Yeah. Well, that was what I had.
Yeah.
I did not want to make. I didn't want to make this beer, but I wanted to do a project together with the guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then I offered to. I would have loved if I could have found a clone recipe. I could find no information about this beer on any of the forums, on any of the normal, like where you would normally go to find that, source that sort of information.
Yeah. So you got Whimsical.
I got Whimsical. Yeah,
Whimsical.
And it was not very good. So.
I invited Ryan. I invited Richard to brew with me, and so he didn't come. He didn't show up. But what I did is I took pictures of his step-by-step process. Yeah. I went through taking pictures in a step-by-step process. I showed him the suds from sanitizing. I showed him. I went step-by-step, and I do brew in the bag. I went through the entire process. So, Richard, you should know the process very well by now.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
I don't understand as well as you people do. And it's a little different for every beer, obviously. There's, different.
Well, even on homebrew scales, because Vic just mentioned he does brew in a bag, which is a little bit of a different process than what I do, which is, I mash in a basically what looks like a Gatorade cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, it's just Vic's method makes cleanup a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and I still have my Gatorade, my Igloo coolers too. Yeah. That I use. The difference is when you do a brew in a bag, you also don't have to sparge. And basically, what a sparge is, Richard, is when you're rinsing. Basically, you're rinsing the grain. You get all of the sugar out. You rinse it like at a higher temperature, hotter water running through just to rinse all the. Brew in a bag kind of does the whole process in one.
Do you have a hoist that you are able to put? Yeah, and you've got a pulley maybe to.
I have a pulley, and I did do it by hand.
Wait, how big is it?
I have a pulley, and I hook it onto a ladder, and I hoist it up that way.
Richard, you're lifting grain out of where it's been resting in liquid that's upwards of like 160 degrees.
Right.
So you would not want to use your hands to do that.
Right.
How large of a batch are you making, Vic?
It works better if I'm doing a 5-gallon batch. If I'm doing a 10-gallon batch, it's still hard as hell to lift it up there. So most of the batches I do is 5-gallon.
That's what, like 25, 30 pounds of grain at that point.
Well, yeah, 25 pounds of grain when it's dry.
When it's dry, yeah.
When it's dry.
But then you've also got a bag that's got to be strong enough to hold.
Yeah.
That I have that doesn't split under the weight.
I have the Brew Bag. It's called the Brew Bag. I spent like $30-$40 for it, but it's lasted like 5 or 6 brews. There's no holes in it or anything like that. It works great.
That's awesome.
But it saves me a lot of cleanup when I do it. Basically, I'm doing everything in one vessel. And I have a big enough kettle. I have a 15-gallon kettle that I can do it in. So even when I'm doing a 10-gallon batch, Todd, I'm really pushing the limit of that kettle. I'm really pushing it right to the edge because it's combining the sparge. So you actually are using more water than you normally would if you're doing the regular process with sparge and everything. Normally you wouldn't use as much water, but because you're combining 2 processes at once, because you're combining the 2 processes, you're using more water.
Can this be done on a brewery scale too? Is this something brewers do or no?
There are some breweries that have units like that in a sense are a big brew in the bag. Not many though. Not many do that. I don't know how. Because
Richard,
they say
it
sometimes
helps with
brew in a bag you lose efficiency.
Yeah, I was gonna say it helps with like on the homebrew scale. It helps with cleanup time.
Yeah.
And it also helps with not having to have an additional vessel.
Right.
As well.
Right.
So
now,
it reduces the cost of a home brewer. But usually for professional systems, you're going to have a brew house that has, even if it's not part of the system, you're going to have your own hot liquor tank that's just designated hot water. You're going to have your mash tun, and you're going to move the mash from there over to your boil kettle because there's so much grain at that point. I mean, we're using thousands of pounds of grain, and not tens of grain, tens of pounds on a homebrew scale. So it's just very different because you wouldn't want to be lifting that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And also some say when you do a brew in a bag, you lose efficiency, and for a commercial brewery, efficiency is money, and you don't want to lose any money, so you got to do something that is going to match, that is going to continue in your budget.
Yeah.
So.
You think you're losing that because you're not sparging anymore?
I have not noticed. I've hit, Todd, I've hit my numbers every single time I've done the brew in a bag.
Okay.
I've hit my OG every single time, my original gravity. I have never really missed it. So
when you're writing your recipe, do you factor in a lower efficiency or?
No. Nope.
So you're not losing efficiency?
No, I'm not losing anything. I'm still doing very high efficiency, but that's because I am partly a numbers person, and I know the right numbers that I'm supposed to use.
Yeah.
Isn't it extremely satisfying when you hit that original gravity?
Yeah.
Like when you come out of that, because usually you don't know what you have until you're invested 3 or 4 hours already between cleaning up and setting up, and then getting your water up to temperature for the mash, and then you've got an hour-long mash, and then you sparge, and then you collect it, and then you can finally figure out where you are with your original gravity.
Yeah.
When you hit that number and you can do that on like a consistent basis, there's something very satisfying about that.
There is.
Yeah.
Todd, what's your favorite beer to brew?
It's probably my Jersey strawberry beer, whatever version I do for the year is. And also, my first beer I ever made, I call it a citric
season right now.
What's that?
They're in season right now.
No, the season just ended. Technically, the best part of the season ended a couple weeks ago. I have some. I purchased some. I always freeze my fruit before I add it into any beer. So right now it's So it's sitting in my freezer right now. It's cryovac, ready to go. So when I get around to making this beer, it'll be as fresh as it was when I got
Yeah,
it.
you'll have it ready for whenever you want to use it. That's awesome.
Now, Todd, do you puree the fruit before you do that strawberry, or what do you do?
Yes. So I'll freeze it. Then I actually also cook it because I just
Okay.
I've had an issue. I had one issue where it got infected and it just
Okay.
wasn't very good. So I like to make sure I get that sanitized as best as possible. So
Yeah,
I'll freeze them first. It helps to break down the cells. Then I'll boil it. Basically, the boiling process for the strawberries purees it by itself anyway. So I don't have to go in with any kind of
yeah, that's what I'll do with the I use frozen raspberries because they're already pasteurized, first of all. But then even with that, I'll still put it in a pot and melt it some in the pot first. And then even after I do that, I will puree it in a blender. But then what I do is before I put it into the fermenter, what I'll do is I'll pour it into a mesh bag and then a sanitized mesh bag, and then I'll put that in the fermenter. That way the seeds stay out of the beer. Because the problem when I first started kegging that I have with the raspberry is the seeds got stuck in a dip tube.
Yep.
You know,
same problem with strawberries.
Yeah.
There's a really cool product, and I don't know where, because I brew with a buddy too, and Todd, he's the whimsical one, and I'm the numbers guy. But my friend Kyle, and he got this. It's basically a sheath that goes around our auto. Like we have an auto siphon, and it's a screen sheath that just slides over it, and it keeps all the seeds from, like, when you get that siphon going, it actually keeps everything out. So that might be an easy,
well, here's what I learned.
Expensive upgrade.
So I did brew in a bag maybe twice. I scorched a bag and I was like, I'm not doing this again. It's not for me. So I still had extra bags, and my buddy down the street that I made this beer with that we're drinking, he was like, dude, take that brew in a bag, put it in your keg, sanitize it first, obviously, put it in your keg, throw your tube in there, and then pump it through there. And then so I do it with any beer. So any beer that I'm kegging, I've had a problem with IPAs if there's too much hop residue in there, if I get a little too much, the trube or whatever they call it out of the bottom in the keg, it'll get caught out. And nothing's worse than having your keg ready to be tapped and you pull that handle and nothing comes out, right? Or a little squirt comes out and then it stops. And you're like,
and you've completely blocked your tube, and you've got to disassemble your keg and clean it before you can drink beer. Yeah,
exactly.
Throw that bag in your keg and then throw your tube in there. And ever since I started that process, I've never had a problem.
Well, you know what I'm doing with my hops is I would put it in a little mesh bag before I put it into the kettle. But and I put it a little bit more than my recipe actually calls for, because with the mesh bag, you're not getting as much concentration of the oils, etc. But what I did is I bought myself a this round screen with a chain that can go into there. It looks like when I was, it looks like an incense ball or something like that. And so I haven't used it yet, but I have to use it because, like I said, I have room for 4 kegs in my keezer, and I only have 2 right now in there. So I have to start brewing again. Maybe Richard will come and do some brewing.
Time to get busy.
Yes. I'm due to see one sooner or later. I can't.
At one point, you should, Now, Ryan, with your work at Tonewood and everything, do you have time to do a lot of home brewing?
It's not so much my work at Tonewood. I've got 2 small children, so
that's rough.
I mean, yeah. When my daughter was born, and one of the reasons I picked up home, besides the love of brewing, I used to golf, and I would go spend anywhere between $60 and $90 to go play 1 round of golf, and I was, by the time you wake up at 6 a.m. for a 7 o'clock tee time, it's a 4-hour round. You're done at 11. You have a beer afterwards. You're home. So you're out of the house basically 6.5 hours, and you're out $90, and all you do is get frustrated.
Right.
So I was like, well, how do I rechannel this energy into something a little bit more productive than me just getting frustrated about swinging some sticks. And I call homebrewing my golf, my form of golf.
There you go.
Takes about 6 hours start to finish. Costs about $60 to $90 for a batch of beer. But at the end of it, I get to drink it. So it's a little bit more fun.
Nice.
So
So, Richard, do you have the urge to homebrew listening to all of us now, Richard?
No. No, it's a lot of
urge to drink homebrew, Richard.
I love to drink homebrew, and I think it's like such a cool subculture of the brewing community, because all three of you have made beers that are really good. Mm-hmm. He just mentioned his friend Kyle, who's also made some beers that were absolutely stellar. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are all beers that you guys have all made beers that I've said, oh, I mean, if this were a brewery, I would drink this. And you're doing it out of your house. And I think there's neat when you can find people that can make something of that kind of a quality. You always think, like, at least I remember back in the day, when I thought of a home brewer, I just thought of some knucklehead who bought a kid at a store and was making bad beer, and, it was free and you were happy. But I think since craft beer has gotten bigger, the art of home brewing seems to have tugged right along too.
I agree with that. I think that part of that, though, is there's a lot of people out there, and I think that Vic is one of them that, has amassed and accumulated a certain amount of knowledge about the subject and is more than happy to share that knowledge. I think that's what's really great about, being part of a homebrew club. I know that Vic's the president of his club. When you get around people because you don't know what you don't know. So sometimes you don't even know how to ask the question about what it is that you're not sure about. You just know that there's a lot of information that you don't have that you're trying to find. And that's when those clubs really come in handy to when you meet people who know a little bit more about the subject than you and don't mind giving you a guiding hand. And that's a beautiful thing about our industry. I mean, if you think back to, Ken Grossman in Sierra Nevada, I mean, there was collaboration and sharing of information between competitive breweries back in the day. There was, how to source materials was one of the biggest ones. How do you hop contracts and everything else that came down the pike over time. And that's why I think Vic and I were talking before we hit record, just because we happen to both be here before Richard, and not to say that Richard was late, but Richard was late. And we were talking about Craft Brewers Conference. The most recent one that I went to was in Nashville. This year's got canceled because of COVID. It was supposed to be in San Antonio, but
you're not doing a virtual brew convention?
There was a virtual one. There was actually well, I mean, it's a conference, so I mean, anybody who was going to present information, that's the beautiful thing. Anything that was going to be presented as information was still disseminated. It was still shared. And anybody that wasn't able to actually go and be there in person could still access that information. That's the really wonderful thing about this industry, is that there's a lot of people more than willing to.
And you learn from everyone else. I'm president of the club. I'm by no means the most experienced brewer. I'm by no means the best brewer. I mean, half of Icarus work is part of our club. So, I'm certainly a lot of people, but the thing is, I've learned so much from everyone else who was more experienced from me, and picking up that knowledge is, it's basically, Richard's just like being a musician. We
joke on Fear all the time too, how much the parallels of music and beer are, the industry are. That's a whole thing. If you're a musician, is passing those things down the line. And I know as a drummer, I mean, that's the first thing. If I'm another drummer, we're talking about our setups, and then we're talking about playing. And you do, how many times we've both talked about a song and realized, oh, you play it that way. Oh, I do this or I do that, or
Sure.
You're just passing stuff over. I saw you do that lick. I'd love to learn how to do that. I'd love to figure that out.
Well, sure. even outside of the music, the actual playing of the songs, have you had conversations with colleagues in the music industry about, like, stay away from this booking agent, or you want to talk to this person at the club to book your show or anything like that? I mean, on the business side of things, Richard?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that those can be equally invaluable lessons to learn.
100%. What bars not to play at, or just,
what day to show up, just to find the person that's going to make the decision, yes or no. Like, if you come 6 days in a row and that person's not there, but they're only there one day out of the week, and you skip that day until somebody tells you, only go on Tuesdays that are odd.
Right.
That's when they're there. Is the number an odd number, and is it a Tuesday? That's the day.
Right.
And
We're just talking about how, Todd, about how, we learn from other brewers, Like I said, I've learned so much from the people in the club with me. Now, how long have you actually been brewing, Todd?
That's another good question. I would say
I'm loaded with them.
Yeah, man. I'm
at least 5 years.
I'm a lack of knowledge. Yeah, I would say it's probably closer to 8 or 9.
Yes.
Okay.
So a little bit of time.
Oh yeah, you had aged beers when we first drank your beers, right?
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Right.
I'm gonna switch topics a little bit. Richard, should we ask the desert island question?
I think before we do, just real quick, I want to share one interesting thing that if he remembers that he did, about sharing knowledge.
Okay.
So I think this tip should go out to the world, because now every single person that I've ever told this to has gone and done it and gone, oh my God, this is the greatest thing you've ever told me. So you have a way of making poppers.
Oh, it's great.
So smart, right?
Okay.
It's the smartest thing I've ever heard. So you take, I'll let you, you mind doing it?
Yeah.
Oh, let your popper thing on people.
Yeah. Here, I take a jalapeno, half it, take the seeds out. Then I stuff it with whatever you're stuffing it with. So I do mine. I actually have to do mine dairy free because my wife can't have any lactose. Okay. So I can get like vegan cream cheeses and any kind of aged hard cheese that doesn't have lactose in it. But really any kind of cream cheese mixture, put all that in there. I then take peppers, or you could do sausage, whatever. Freeze the pepper, right? There's your key.
Okay.
You freeze the pepper. You pull out the frozen pepper. You wrap it in bacon that's not frozen, right? So the thought process is the bacon needs more time to kind of render down and get cooked and crispy. And the pepper in a raw state won't need as much time. So you need to freeze it to slow down that cooking process.
Okay.
So that by the time the bacon, so it's all about everything cooking in the same amount of time. So giving that bacon enough time by freezing the pepper, it's going to take that pepper longer to cook. It'll take the cheese longer to defrost and kind of cook. Otherwise, you have either raw bacon or you have an overcooked pepper and a messy amount of cheese. Yeah.
Oh. Saves all that mess. I'm telling you, try it. Everybody who's tried it has come back and gone, oh my God, that's the way to eat a jalapeno pop.
I do say I make stuffed long hots too, where I'll stuff them with a sausage mixture, and then I'll freeze those, same thing, and then I'll wrap them in bacon. And that's another crowd pleaser right there, is the bacon wrapped stuffed long.
Everything's wrapped in bacon.
Take away being the freezing the pepper. That's the thing I never would have thought. Like that's the trick. Like we're talking about, you find an expert and they pass some knowledge down. I know people made a lot of peppers. It was that freezing. That was clutch.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Clutch.
Hey, Todd, have you ever used your bacon in a beer?
I have not.
You have not?
No, so I enjoy eating my bacon with beer.
Not drinking it.
Yeah, no. I don't think it works well. Me personally, I just don't think you get the right flavor profile out of it. I've tried some other ones that have claimed to be made with real bacon. I just don't like the flavor that comes out of it. I think beer complements bacon extremely well. I think adding it into your beer, I mean, you can dip it if you want to, but other than that, actually brewing with it. And then you're also working with the pork product. So you're adding fat to your beer, which we all know fat will take away from your head retention.
Right.
Things of that nature. So, every time I've had a bacon beer, so to say, you have that artificial, like, liquid smoke flavor.
Yeah. Artificial smoke and saltiness out of that.
Now, has your bacon made it into any sweets, like a bacon brownie or any kind of?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I love cooking with bacon inside anything. So anything sweet we'll add bacon into. Breads, cookies, really anything. I'll put it on top of ice cream, inside ice cream.
I thought that was complete hogwash until my dear friend
unintended
told me there was just a assortment of pastries. And I picked up this blonde brownie, and I'm like, oh, great, this is awesome. I'm chewing. I'm like, what are these salted caramel chips? He's like, no, that's bacon. Candy bacon. I'm like, oh, I was wrong. So wrong.
Nice.
Yeah, it just didn't make any sense in my head that you'd put bacon in anything sweet. And I'm like, that just can't work. That's got to be the silliest thing ever.
I think you've had mine where I did the candied bacon and I chocolate dip it.
Oh, that effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
And
good.
that's an intense little snack right there.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, normally, I mean, I feel bad because normally every other time I do a podcast, either going somewhere or at my house, there's a spread of food. And Richard hit me up last night, and, you know, I'm kind of cranking away at the summertime project, so I didn't have time to get anything done. But
He's getting me drunk. It's more than fun.
But,
already won.
well, you know what? Then I would have been disappointed. Ryan and I both have been disappointed because you'd be eating chocolate candy bacon,
it's not fair
and
either.
we're sitting here
I would have been so pleased for you, Richard.
You guys are missing out on something so great. I need
Oh,
Richard,
Richard,
not
that's
a
why
bit
you
of
missed the basement, Richard. I usually feed you when you come here.
Oh, he does.
Nice.
Yeah, he hooks it up, no doubt.
That's because I'm not allowed to have people here without having food for them.
I think it's also because we drink so much beer, you have to soak it up with something, or
Yes,
everyone's
we do.
crashing on your couch.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Wow, great conversation. Now, we're going to skip a little bit. We always like to throw some music in here. Ryan,
Yes, sir.
Desert Island, one album you could have. What would it be?
I don't know. This is such a loaded question. I'm terrible at this. I mean, I've got like 4 or 5 just right off the top of my head, but if I had to pick only one, I'd probably pick the debut album from the Counting Crows.
August and everything after, such an
August
amazing
August and everything after. Yeah.
Nice.
I listen to that record a ton. Such a good record.
I listened to it so much that I actually couldn't. I had to turn the volume all the way up on Round Here because I had ruined the CD.
Here's the thing: if you're depressed, put that record on. Because if Adam Durant did not kill himself after making that record, you shouldn't either.
You'll be all right.
It is such a morbid record.
My other morbid record of the same time period was Automatic for the People, REM.
Yeah.
That was on my list, wasn't it? That I actually used that album once, didn't I, Richard?
Oh God, it's such a great album.
Automatic for the People. That's the Death album.
Night Swimming is one of my favorite songs.
Oh, that's an amazing, amazing song. Amazing.
I like we're a group of people we can talk about REM because we know another group of people that if we brought REM up to, they'd probably look at us like we had 2 heads.
Yeah, well, whenever we talk about music on our show, I always feel like the
I don't hold back. I like Culture Club. They just have to get
I feel like the TikTok of the group.
You're like the young Padawan. You're learning.
I feel like there's just a lot of judgment that goes into any time there's a response from them. So
honestly, it would be the same thing because you see, Ryan, when I listen to the show, Richard, you and other guys are very accomplished musicians.
Yeah.
And I'm a shitty musician. And my tastes go more toward mainstream rock or classic rock, like REM, etc. And you guys are mentioning, ABC and the Bunny Lips, etc., or something like that. Some kind of jazzy thing that I've never heard of. And I said, you know what it reminds me of, Richard? I'll tell you the story when we went to the Martin Factory tour in Nazareth.
Right.
And I went into the one climate-controlled room where they had the $15,000 guitars on the wall. And so I took one down the wall, and I'm playing it on this and that. And this guy comes walking in, nod to him, some long-haired guy. And he takes one of the guitars off the wall, and he starts playing like frickin' Prince. And like, I took the guitar and I put it on the wall, and my wife says to me, "Aren't you going to play?" I said, "No." And I just so see, that's just it. So that's my taste go more toward Ryan's with REM, Automatic for the People. I call that the Death album.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing album.
But I like Born to Run from Springsteen would be a contender, and that's a mainstream album too. I'm like, I've got a lot of, there's a lot of mainstream stuff on my side of things too. But then there's, an off ball one, a little weird one for me. Toad the Wet Sprocket, I was obsessed with.
Okay.
Nice.
Which was not very mainstream at all.
I get them confused with Gin Blossoms.
Really?
Oh, I see them as very different.
Yeah, are they?
Yeah.
I don't know. I get them confused.
Yeah. But I can't even think of the name of the album it's the Fear from 1991.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Todd, how about you?
You asked for one and I gave you 4. I'm sorry.
Well, that's all right. That's all right.
Record, huh?
Desert Island, one record.
Yeah.
I would have to go with one of my classics from back in the day, the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay.
Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
Oh,
Blood
Okay.
Sugar Sex Magic? Yeah, that's a great record.
Kind of hits all genres
Yeah.
of music that I kind of enjoyed. My musical likes go from anywhere from country to death metal. So
Okay.
I'm kind of I'm not really a mainstream pop guy.
Yeah.
But other than that, I really have, I kind of like it all. Back in the day, I used to listen to a lot of like Soul Coughing, things like that.
such a good band.
Oh, I met Doty.
Really?
Yeah.
Nuh-uh.
What?
When'd you do that?
You met M. Doty?
Yeah, he did a solo concert. So I used to live in DC, like right out of college, and so that was around like 2002, and he did a solo show at Catholic University's gymnasium, and I met him after. I bought a CD from him. Like it was like a meet and greet afterwards, and so I met him there, and then yeah.
Amen.
So I have a soul
my favorite Mike Doty song is Janine, where it's an audio recording from a voicemail. It's like a tape recording of a voicemail back when we had machines to do that. And
Janine,
Janine, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
That's my favorite Mike Doty song. But Soul Coughing's great.
I'm going to take Soul Coughing today. I'm going to take Ruby Varun because that album was a change your life record for me on a million levels, including like one of the longest mushroom trips of my entire life. Like where me and a buddy probably ate the better part of, into an ounce of mushrooms over a couple days and just lost our minds. But that's not my M. Doty story. Jay Rose and I went to see M. Doty at the North Star Bar in Philly. Yeah. He was doing a solo by himself, after Soul Coughing. And
what year was that? Was it around the same time I met him? What year was that?
2000, either 99 or 2000, 2001, somewhere in there.
Okay. Yeah, I met him in like 02, I think.
Right, somewhere around there. Yeah, it could have been 02, but somewhere around there. So, again, hallucinogens played a part in this story. And he was newly sober at that point. So we go up at the end of the show to buy, the merch table and the CD table and whatever. And there's a song called Bust a Beelzebub where they count down.
I was going to say, that's my second favorite song.
5.
Janine and, yeah.
Right, well, they start counting down. 5, 10, 50. It's all samples, right? 30, right? So we walk up to go to get the CD, and I'm like, hey, I'd like a CD. $5? He's like, no, how about 10? And I'm like, well, how about 15? He's like, well, how about 20? And we did that Bust the Beelzebub thing until I got the $45. And then I handed him $45 and bought his solo record. And he's looking at me like I'm an alien. Like, completely confused. The CD was $10. I just handed him $45 and walked away with the CD. And Jay was like, what the hell are you doing?
Like, what? If you had invested the
$45 for a $10 CD,
if you had invested those $35 into Apple stock back then, you'd be a rich man.
Yeah, you're rich now. Instead, I was confusing poor sober Mike Doty about how much his CD cost.
Well, see, Richard, you were being whimsical. You weren't thinking of the scientific side of things. All right, Rich, I'm going to pick a different album than I have before then.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes, Close to the Edge.
Oh my God, I have so many amazing times with that album too. What an amazing record. 3 songs. One, Close to the Edge on side 1, Siberian Katru, and Then You and I on side 2. Could not be a better Yes record.
There you go. See? That's my pick today. I try to change it around every time that we do this.
And I'm proud of us. None of us picked the Stones or the Beatles. So
I could have done Abbey Road or.
Here's what I say. I
Magical Mystery Tour, Abbey Road.
Whenever do this. I
Sergeant
put the
Pepper's.
Beatles, Ryan, in another class. I don't count them. You know, I go to other ones, but
I think people take Close to the Edge and put it on in headphones. Okay,
Yeah.
There's a really funny way. This is really geeky, but if there's musicians out there, you'll appreciate this.
Yeah. Oh,
they
absolutely.
recorded that song. It's an 18-minute song, sidelong song on the record, in complete sections. So like the first section they would record, and they'd pack up and go to a gig in England, and then they'd come back and record the next 2 minutes, and then go and record a gig. So if you really listen hard to that record, like if you listen to the drums, that's Bill Bruford, he's actually at times playing a different kit, different tuned kit. It's tuned completely differently, sounds different. If you really pay attention to that record, you're like, oh yeah, it's all tape edits.
The musicianship, you had Bruford, you had Chris Squire on bass, who was amazing.
Steve Howe, one of my favorite guitar players.
And Steve Howe on guitar. You know, before we got to start wrapping up, Richard, how is your bass playing going?
Terribly.
Is it?
Absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
I forgot that even started.
It barely started.
Well, you know, when I first found out that he was playing bass, I called him Prickle. That Prickle was Gumby's drummer. And Gumby had a rock band.
Yeah.
And the dinosaur Prickle was his bass player.
That's awesome. I love that nickname.
So I called Richard Prickle. No one knew who the hell I was talking about when I said Gumby.
That bass player, that bass is going to end up on a Noodle record because we've been joking about cutting some tunes again. And
there you go.
The bass player that loves that.
Three Noodles Stew?
Yeah. We
That's
started one
name.
track into our next record.
Did you talk to Dan? You're back?
Yeah, I spoke to Dan a couple weeks ago.
Getting the band back together?
Dan Jacoby is the guitar player from Three Noodle Stew and the original producer on Fear of Craft Beer Planet. So,
okay, we are going to start wrapping up now. Ryan, final words on Tonewood. What's going on? Where will we be soon? And any new news?
New news. Well, I broke something to Chef Todd just a moment ago, but poolside will be back for 4th of July, but by the time you hear that, it'll probably all be gone.
I'll be camped out.
Yeah. Yeah, we're chugging along. I mean, the big news too. We added the fooders, so I guess keep an eye out for some wood-aged beers that are going to be coming through production and coming out with some regularity and frequency, which is exciting. The Barrington project is moving along cautiously until we know what to expect to get, you know, on the other side of this COVID situation. But yeah, we're super excited with the way things are going, and we've been really happy that, you know, things haven't had to we haven't had to lay anyone off or anything like that. So
you got a great crew there too. So
got a good crew, and we're really appreciative of all the support. It's been great. So if you're familiar with us, thank you. If you're not familiar with us, try us out. Hopefully you'll like it. There you go.
Okay. Chef Todd, what do we got going on with you?
All I gotta say is support your local businesses, restaurants, all that good stuff. Get out there, see some people. You know, be safe, everybody. But ultimately, we gotta keep these businesses in action. And you know, the waiters and waitresses, bartenders, people of that nature that are really hurting right now. Be mindful of that when you're going out. Be polite. I mean, for the love of God, everybody's got to calm down a little bit. You know, just deal with what's going on and move past it. I mean, ultimately, you know, we're all going to be good and all that good stuff. So just be good. Go out there and keep these businesses alive. They're really going to need our help because I don't see an end to this anytime soon, unfortunately. So
great message. On our side, Ocean County Home Brewers, our July meeting will still be virtual. We'll still not getting together in person. We will still be virtual. As far as the brewery side, you know, we had talked before. A couple of breweries are still in the stages waiting for their final approvals. Dr. Brew Little, who we had on the show a couple of months ago, about 6 weeks or so ago. Dr. Brew Little, which is in Maple Shade, they're still waiting for their final approval. Amanda and Sean from The Seed in Atlantic City, they're also waiting for their final approval. Battle River and Tom's River, we had them on last show. We had Ian and Gary on the last show. They did get their approval to begin brewing, so Ian's been in his words, brewing his ass off, brewing some beer. So they're hoping to get their final approval also. So that's the news that we have going on, everyone. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Like I said, this is Vic's Basement Zoomcast, brought to you by South Jersey Beer Scene. We're on YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram. Please subscribe to us. And, let us know if there's some breweries or, some guests that you'd like to see us have. With that, Ryan Tonewood, thank you so much for having for coming
thanks so
on.
much for having me.
A pleasure having you. Chef Todd, definitely a pleasure. Look forward to trying your beers and your bacon at some point.
Awesome finally
and of course,
to meet you, Vic. Definitely next time. There's awesome finally getting to meet you. Next time we'll definitely have to do it more in person.
For sure. And Richard, as always, thank you, my brother. You are the man. So with that, again, have a good evening, everyone, and all stay safe.